August 16, 2025, Camilo 8A, a renowned influencer and main digital spokesperson for the Chapitos faction of the Sinaloa cartel, was murdered at his home in Temixco, Morelos. This death comes almost a year after the conflict between the sons of Joaquin Guzman Loera and the Misa escalated their dispute.
If you don't institute the death penalty for drug dealers, you'll never solve that problem. A drug dealer, on average, will kill during that person's life 500 people. Unless you have a death penalty, unless there's something that they're, right now they don't even get charged with anything.
On the afternoon of Saturday, August 16th, family members of this controversial Mexican YouTuber, Camilo Ochoa, found his body in the bathroom of their home. As you can see from this footage, the bathroom door was riddled with bullets, and it looks like Camilo had tried to hide inside, but the gunman opened fire through the door. Now, the most shocking part is that his wife and 2 kids were actually present in the same house with him when this happened, but they had no idea that a hooded gunman had slipped in through the back wall of the home. He moved quickly through the house and cornered Camilo in the bathroom. That was when the terrifying sound of gunfire rang out and shattered the peace of the entire neighborhood. And once his mission was completed, the shooter escaped the same way he came in, scaling the wall and vanishing into the streets in a small white Chevrolet Spark. Inside the house, Camilo's wife and children were frozen in shock at the horrifying sight of his body. That sight alone terrified his wife, and within a few hours, family and friends rallied round to evacuate the family with a private jet. Coincidentally, Camilo's killing happened at the very same time President Donald Trump was doubling down on his call for the penalty against cartel leaders and narco traffickers. Trump has been warning that unless there's a punishment cartels truly fear, the killings and poison flowing across the border will never end. And Camilo's case just shows exactly what Trump has been hammering on. His murder was a targeted cartel assassination, and his killers had been tracking him for weeks, but they locked in on his exact location only after his wife made one terrible mistake. In fact, she did all the work for her husband's killers. Even more disturbing, Camilo himself had seen his death coming, but he publicly joked about the threats he was receiving and even mocked those who wanted to kill him. Now, the crazy thing is, the person who orchestrated this plot was actually in prison in the United States when Camilo was murdered, but that did not stop him from pulling off his deadly plans. So, now everyone is asking the same questions. How did he do it? Who exactly is this Camilo guy? What did he do to end up in the bad books of the cartels? What role did his wife play in this? And could the ultimate punishment of narco traffickers put an end to this type of crime? After Camilo's murder, investigators and journalists began piecing together the puzzle, and the details they uncovered were shocking. First, let's talk about the man believed to have ordered Camilo's death. His name is Damaso Lopez Serrano, better known as El Mini Lic. He is the son of Damaso Lopez Núñez, El Licenciado, who was once one of the most powerful figures inside the Sinaloa cartel. Now, Mini Lic is no stranger to cartel violence or betrayal. In fact, he was accused of being the mastermind behind the May 15th, 2017, assassination of journalist Javier Valdez Cardenas. For many years, he was a deputy to Joaquin El Chapo Guzman within the Sinaloa cartel, the same cartel Camilo worked for, and that's exactly where their rivalry began. According to some leaked audio recordings, Mini Lic wanted Camilo dead, and the reason? Well, they just had bad blood from their days inside the cartel. You see, Camilo started out working with the Damaso faction, but later shifted his loyalty, speaking in favor of El Chapo's sons, known as Los Chapitos. That switch was seen as a betrayal, and you guys know that betrayals inside the cartel world always have one outcome: death. So, how did Mini Lic pull it off, judging that he was already in a US prison in Virginia when the murder happened? Well, that didn't stop him. The voice recordings suggest he hired a hacker, or more accurately, a cyber criminal who specialized in cloning phones and tracking people through social media. And here's where things get even scarier, because the hacker didn't have to do too much. He simply sent a phishing link to Camilo's wife, and she fell for it. She clicked the link without knowing it was a trap, and that single mistake gave the hacker access to private information. It revealed their emails, their devices, and even the location of their home. From there, it was only a matter of time before the hitman broke into his home and executed him. The leaked audio captured a voice, allegedly Mini Lic, saying, "They already pulled up where Camilo is. They're about to send it to me. His wife clicked a link she shouldn't have. I had someone on it, like a hacker. Not exactly a hacker, but someone who clones phones and tracks people through social media. This week, he'll get me everything: emails, phones, socials, even his house. Isn't it so shocking how one careless click sealed the fate of an entire family? But do you know what's even more shocking? The type of family Camilo came from. You see, unlike many people who end up in the world of organized crime, Camilo was not born into poverty. In fact, Camilo came from a comfortable background. He came into the world in 1982 in Sinaloa, Mexico, a place known globally as the cradle of the Sinaloa cartel. But his family wasn't involved in the narco trade. His father, Jaime Ochoa, was a businessman who expanded the fast food chain El Pollo Loco into both Mexico and the United States. That business gave the Ochoa family a comfortable lifestyle, and Camilo even worked with his father in the restaurant business for a time. There's even a strange little detail that makes his story more surreal. In one interview, Camilo claimed that none other than Brad Pitt once asked his father for a job at El Pollo Loco. According to Camilo, Pitt was hired to dress up as the chicken mascot for the restaurant when he was a struggling actor in Los Angeles.
And so Brad Pitt ended up working at Pollo Loco. The first Pollo Loco was on Alvarado Street, close to Hollywood, which is where Brad Pitt ended up. Why? Because he was following his dream of being a star. Hey! My dad told me that he was the one who gave him a job, that he was there, that when he arrived, they put him to live with the manager of one of the chains, with one of the managers of the chicken business, I don't remember his name, Charlie Galvin. They put him to live there, and when you bought a chicken, they gave you a ticket to the doors, and Brad Pitt was the crazy chicken mascot.
That just shows you the kind of circles Camilo's family moved in, far away from the world of guns and cartels. So the question is, how did a boy born with every advantage end up walking down such a dark road and eventually became a target for the cartels? Well, the turning point came in 1997 when Camilo's father began receiving kidnapping threats. The Ochoa family had to move from Sinaloa to Nuevo Laredo for safety, but the threats and fear never really went away.
We went to live in Nuevo Garo, Tamaulipas, where we had restaurants. And in New Oreo, Tamaulipas in 2004, I bought mushrooms, and that's when my whole life changed.
And in 2004, the nightmare became real when Camilo himself was by Los Zetas, one of Mexico's most violent cartels. His family had to pay a massive ransom to get him released. That traumatic event left a permanent scar on him, but instead of pushing him away from the cartel life, that kidnapping experience ironically pushed him into it. By 2014, he had fully entered the underworld. He became a plaza boss in Mazatlan under the Sinaloa cartel. His job was to oversee narcotics movements, control local routes, and keep the cartel's grip strong in the city. And here's what's interesting. Camilo admitted he wasn't in it for the money. He said he did it for the adrenaline and the power that came with being in charge. Of course, this didn't sit well with his father, who always wanted his son to stay away from the cartel world. But instead of cutting him off, his father still supported him. He told Camilo, "If I forbid you, you'll still do it. If I fight with you, you'll stop talking to me. All I want is to know how you're doing. Everything I have is yours. You don't need this life." But despite his father's warnings, Camilo kept going deeper, and eventually, his choices caught up with him. In 2015, he was arrested in Mazatlan and sentenced to 7 years in prison. But even behind bars, Camilo didn't stop. He admitted he continued running narco operations from inside prison. Still, those years in prison did affect him in one way. He saw how much pain his parents were going through. His father even suffered multiple heart attacks because of the stress. That finally made Camilo reflect. He later said that realizing how much his parents were suffering is what pushed him to quit the narco world. And prison was also where he met the woman who would become his wife, Yashira Silvas. So, the story was that he had asked a cousin to introduce him to someone who could visit him, and that's how he met her. She started visiting him regularly, and eventually, they fell in love. Together, they had 2 children, Camilo and Santiago.
Do you remember where I was when you used to visit me?
Yes.
What was it there? The jail. The jail. And did you like going there or not?
Yes.
Even after his release, Camilo tried to live a more peaceful life with them. He gifted his wife luxury cars, took care of his family, and appeared to want stability. But there was one thing he could never leave behind: his ties to the cartel world. On social media, Camilo transformed into a controversial figure. He openly sided with Los Chapitos, the sons of El Chapo Guzman, and regularly insulted El Mayo Zambada's faction of the Sinaloa cartel. He mocked them, ridiculed them, and made it clear which side he stood on.
Camilo always showed his face, which together with his closeness to members of the cartel earned him credibility and more than 300,000 subscribers. In his content, the influencer frequently blamed Ismael Zambadas and Kairos, the skinny guy, and his subordinates for various criminal acts in Culiacan. With no basis other than his word, Ochoa attributed the murders of police officers and civilians and even the theft of 33 tons of gold to them. In contrast, the sons of Joaquin, El Chapo Guzman, were portrayed as seasoned fighters and providers of security for the public in a clear attempt to divert attention from them.
Those words made him a marked man. The more he spoke, the more enemies he created. And while he may have tried to live a double life, a family man on one side, a cartel provocateur on the other, eventually, those two worlds collided, and that collision ended in blood. But Camilo's death didn't happen in isolation. Around the same time, in the United States, Donald Trump was pushing for the penalty for narco traffickers and cartel leaders. It was a message aimed directly at people like the ones who killed Camilo. But the question is, could such a policy really make a difference? From the beginning of his political career, President Trump has been clear about one thing.
These are terrible people, and we have to get tough on those people. Because we can have all the blue ribbon committees we want, but if we don't get tough on the drug dealers, we're wasting our time. Just remember that. We're wasting our time. And that toughness includes the penalty.
Now, in his second term in office, Trump has not softened his stance one bit.
And by the way, you'll never really solve the drug problem unless you do what other countries do. And that's the penalty for drug dealers. If you have the death, a drug dealer on average will kill during that person's life 500 people. Unless you have a death penalty, unless there's something that right now they don't even get charged with anything.
Trump often points to the crisis as the biggest reason behind his push, and he explains in very simple terms.
And they're dying from a drug the size of a pinhead. A little bit of fentanyl, literally what could fit on the end of a pin, can kill 10 people. It's crazy.
And almost all of it comes through Mexico, moved by cartels who profit off American deaths. For Trump, this is not just a crime problem, it's a national security threat. And not just that, there is also personal for Trump.
I had a brother who suffered tremendously from alcoholism and alcohol. And it was a terrible thing to watch. He was an incredible guy with the best personality. He was the best looking person you've ever seen. Everything was perfect, but he had an addiction. And so I understand addiction because I was very close. He was very close to me. He was an incredible guy.
That brother was Fred Trump Jr. He was an airplane pilot and maintenance worker who later died from alcoholism. That tragedy shaped Trump's belief that addiction destroys families and that the people fueling those addictions, whether with alcohol or deadly narcotics like fentanyl, should face the harshest possible punishment. And Trump doesn't shy away from giving examples of countries that are already doing this.
China has the death penalty, Singapore has the death penalty, various places have the death penalty. Wherever you have the death penalty, you don't have drugs. But my direction in working with Pam and everybody else, we've launched an all-out war on fentanyl traffickers, and it's a war that we're going to win.
Earlier this year, China ignored all the international protests and went ahead to execute 4 Canadian nationals for narco crimes, ignoring international protests.
Canada's relations with China have hit a new low. Earlier this year, China executed 4 Canadians. They were convicted on drug crimes, and Ottawa just found out about this.
Oh, Trump, that is proof that capital punishment works as a deterrent. But the question is, would such a system actually work in the United States? Well, for Trump, you guys already know that the answer is a big yes. Believes that if they knew being caught in the US meant certain death, they would think twice before sending their poison across the border. Many people, however, disagree. They believe that cartel leaders already live in a violent world where death is part of the game. For men like Mini Lic, the one accused of ordering Camilo's assassination, the threat of execution might not matter. If anything, some worry it could push cartels to lash out even harder, unleashing more violence in retaliation. So, what do you guys think? Is capital punishment really the ultimate way to end this drug crisis? Please feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth videos like this. Meanwhile, click on any of the cards on your screen right now to watch more of our videos.